I didn't want the day to go by without us actually like taking advantage of what the tradition really like wants for us on this day. And one of those things is to begin to prepare for Passover. So on the Shabbat before the month of Nisan begins, we don't just do the blessing for the new month. There's also a section of Torah. We didn't actually read it this morning, but it's an entirely different section of Torah from an entirely different section of the Torah, much earlier in Exodus. And so I wanted to read it together, and I just figured we'd do it in English so that we could all actually understand what it is saying. And as we read it, my question to you is like the rabbis give us readings for different times of year so that we will take lessons for the moment. So as you read this ancient document about an ancient ritual, what is it that is jumping out to you as a lesson or an imperative or an instruction or a suggestion for you? Does everybody have the one that says Mevarchim HaChodesh 5785, blessing the imminent month, Jewish time, place, purpose? Yes, great. And then I've asked Noah to do a little bit of reading for us here. This is, if we wanted to futz with the books, if you wanted to look in the Eitz Chaim, you could. It's Exodus 12, 1 through 20. We have gone through 9 out of 10 plagues. That's kind of where we are in the story. And the story pauses, and God says to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, like this kind of new section begins. All right, hit it.
God said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, "This month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. Speak to the community leadership of Israel and say that on the 10th of this month, each of them shall take a lamb to a family, a lamb to a household. But if the household is too small for a lamb, let it share one with a neighbor who dwells nearby, in proportion to the number of persons. You shall contribute for the lamb according to what each household will eat. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a yearling male. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep watch over it until the 14th day of this month, and all the assembled congregation of the Israelites shall slaughter it at twilight. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they are to eat it. They shall eat the flesh that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or cooked in any way with water, but roasted, head, legs, and entrails, over the fire. You shall not leave any of it over until morning. If any of it is left until morning, you shall burn it. This is how you shall eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it hurriedly. It is a Passover offering to God. For that night I will go through the land of Egypt and strike down every male firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human and beast, and I will mete out punishments to all of the gods of Egypt. I, God. And the blood on the houses where you are staying shall be a sign for you. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, so that no plague will destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be to you one of remembrance. You shall celebrate it as a festival to God throughout the ages. You shall celebrate it as an institution for all time. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the very first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day to the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. You shall celebrate a holiday on the first day and a holiday on the 7th day. No work at all shall be done on them. Only what every person is to eat, that alone may be prepared for you. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this very day I brought your ranks out of the land of Mitzrayim. You shall observe this day throughout the ages as an institution for all time. In the first month, from the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. No leaven shall be found in your houses for 7 days. For whoever eats what is leavened, that person, whether a stranger or a citizen of the country, shall be cut off from the community of Israel. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your settlements you shall eat unleavened bread.
Thank you very much. Thank you. What Noah just did for us was I was going to ask us all to read this in Chavruta, and that would have taken a lot longer, and I would have enjoyed that. I think you would have enjoyed that too, but we're just going to do this Chavruta together. What jumped off the page to you as an observation about these instructions for the first Passover that seems, relevant and important for us today? Hang on, let me...
My name is Joel. It's interesting, at least to me, that this is setting up a ritual in advance of the event actually occurring.
Why is that interesting?
Well, usually you would think that you would be marking something that has happened that you could then, reflect on, but God is saying, look, I'm going to do this, and this is how you're going to remember it even ahead of it occurring.
You know what? And actually the contrast for that is Purim, right? The Purim story happens, and at the end of the story, Mordechai writes down, and here's how you will observe this day, just like we relaxed and, felt finally safe on this day. Now forevermore you'll remember on this day because it happened. And this is like in advance of the thing happening. Great, okay, yeah. Prepare to be saved.
Mary Nora, and the parts about don't eat any of it raw, but towards the end, if any of it is left till the morning, you shall burn it. Modern times, I'm just thinking about food safety and not like eating food that you've left on the stove, even if it has 10 pounds of garlic in it, because it's actually not great for you, and garlic does not necessarily just kill everything that's on your stove. So
you're saying like this was some ancient way of doing food safety?
In a way, but also the do not eat it raw. I eat kibbutz, which is raw lamb, and so I think it's very interesting for Passover, don't eat it raw or cooked with water. You have to roast it and then eat it. And if you don't eat it, don't eat that. If you don't eat it by morning, don't eat that, or don't let it sit out, burn it, because it's not part of the offering anymore.
Yeah. This is like not sushi grade lamb. Right. Yeah.
It seems very extreme that if anybody accidentally eats chametz during the thing, you just cut them completely off, and then even strangers who may not be Jewish, I think is what's implied. You won't talk to them either. How would they know that this is going on? I have questions.
Great, I have questions. Great. Right, we're back in the back, and then Yonatan. Oh.
So the people God is talking to are supposed to eat it hurriedly, I think. Yeah.
Right.
But when we celebrate Passover, we're supposed to do it at a leisurely pace, relaxed.
Yes. Go for it.
Hello. So one of the things that I've been reading Talmud over the last few years, and of how the ritual is important, but there's charity built in where if you can't afford to do certain rituals, then people give you from that. And the end of the first paragraph where, it is, if you have too small of a household to eat an entire lamb, your neighbors should share with you.
Yeah.
And that, again, and throughout Torah, the ritual is the important thing, and we shouldn't do anything to prevent people from doing the ritual if they actually want to do it.
And it builds in the description of basically a neighborhood economy of share with your neighbor if you have extra, and if you don't have enough, talk to your neighbor. Yeah. Oh, they've got a microphone. Okay. Yeah.
This is less a guidance for what we should do and just more an observation.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we tell the story of why do we eat matzah, as the Israelites didn't have time for their bread to rise. They had to take what they had and run, and that's why we eat matzah. But here in our second paragraph, we have, they shall eat the flesh that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. So I'm wait, so it was supposed to be unleavened. They would have had time. This was before they left. They could have leavened their bread.
Yeah, I mean, importantly, now they have a 2-week clock. They could make bread to go if they wanted, right? Actually. So, that there's something maybe spiritually important about matzah that actually isn't about the story of, they threw it in their beds because they didn't have time. But maybe that, maybe it's both and. Maybe that's a good story for a different reason. And also, maybe it's not actually doesn't actually make historical sense.
So while reading this, it struck me just how many times it says, you shall eat unleavened bread, you shall not eat leavened bread.
Yes.
And there's, the theological principle, every word in the Torah is there on purpose.
Yes.
Why does it say it so many times?
Yeah. Do you have a thought on that?
Well, there's the three rules that have derived. Sorry, there's the three rules that have derived from the repetition, which is you shall not possess it, you shall not eat it, and it shall not be in your. You can't see it. You can't see it. You can't eat it, and you can't possess it.
You can't own it. Right. That's yes.
So it's one. That's one. The ways they take the repetition, they derive different aspects of not encountering chametz. But I don't know if you have any other.
I think that's great. I mean, I think it's an important observation. I mean, anytime there's repetition, also what it's saying is this is really, really, really important. We really want you to get this. But then also what Rabbi Stevens said is right. Like they don't, but they would say, it's not just saying the same thing twice. It's emphasizing a different aspect.
Exactly.
So yeah. Oh my gosh, that we could go on like this for a while, and I kind of figured we might, and I want to make sure that it's not Passover when we end this service. So, I wanted to give us a little bit of spiritual homework because I think that's part of what this. Tucking this parsha into this day, the rabbis were trying to do by having us read this and having us encounter the language and be, sort of provoked by it in different ways to start thinking about its meaning for us. So this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a starter list. I took a couple of the ideas that are emphasized in here, and I tried to turn them into things that might actually be useful preparation for all of us for Passover. So the first thing is the calendar. Nobody remarked on the calendar, but like kind of an interesting first mitzvah to give to the Jewish people. In fact, like back in Genesis, Rashi, the commentator, remarks on the story of the creation of the world. If the purpose of the Torah is to give the Jews mitzvot, why not start the Torah here? Because this is the first mitzvah the Jewish people get as a people, which is create a calendar for yourself. To remember your holy days, to remember your feast days, to remember the ways in which, like, you actually are on a different count. The fact that, like, my kids have spring break in the middle of April, that's going to make going to Disney World a lot more fun for them because it's not going to be crowded with all the kids who have spring break right now, like across Chicago and across the country. But also the difference of the Jewish calendar relative to the Gregorian calendar, it can be a real blessing. And also, I don't know if like in school, very often on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, they start school or there are finals or whatever it is. And you're like, oh, they don't get our calendar. But there's something identity building about a calendar. There's something identity building about remembering the days that matter to you. So I ask the question, what for you marks the beginning of a chapter of your life that represents your liberation or freedom or stepping into a chapter that is something that gives you a sense of identity? Do you observe or mark that in any way year to year? How can you bring that personal story into your experience of Passover this year? Right? And this is relevant because I think very often we think of Passover as having to do with national or big global issues that have to do with liberation. The Jewish people walked out of Egypt. I'm going to get there, but I don't want the personal to get lost in this. It'll be more meaningful if it actually embodies something for you as a human, for you with a story. So the second one was slaughter a lamb and put the blood up on the lintel. Nobody said anything about that either. So I wrote, what is something active that you can do that requires personal sacrifice? Because, slaughtering a lamb was like, that was food, that was money, that was a work animal that may even draw attention to yourself, even that might feel dangerous. Imagine like slaughtering an animal that the Egyptians might have considered a god or something that drew attention to them by putting the blood on the doorpost. You were saying this is a Jewish house, right? It was also a sign to the angel to pass over. That's where the story of passing over comes from, is that the angel saw those houses that were marked with the lintel of blood. But what can you do that requires personal sacrifice that may even draw attention to yourself, even attention that might feel dangerous, that is in the service of stating your values toward collective redemption? Put that question out there. This is how you shall eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, your staff in your hand. What is a journey you're preparing for right now? A physical journey or an emotional journey. How can you leverage the rituals of Passover to help you prepare for it? This shall be a day for you of memorial and celebration. What will you do to make sure this holiday doesn't come and go unnoticed? Sometimes we just kind of forget Jewish holidays happen and we didn't arrange for Seder, didn't clean our house, and all of a sudden it's Saturday night and we're like, oh, it's Passover, you know? And so I want to invite you 2 weeks in advance to start making plans for Passover. If you want to host your first Seder, great. Like, we can help you do that. If you want to go to a Seder, but you're not sure whether a particular family or person might invite you, I want to encourage you to ask, you know, to actually like plan for yourself and think about like who you might want to do Seder with, and see if you can make it possible. And the last thing, no leaven shall be found in your houses. So leaven symbolizes, it's come to symbolize lots of things in Jewish tradition: arrogance, empty, puffed up energy with little substance, lethargy. So what might the cleaning of leavening symbolize for you this year? What food items, but also relationships, activities, hobbies, habits, are essential for your survival and well-being? And what can you experiment with living without for a week to see how it feels? What do you want to throw away and start fresh without? So there's a practice of basically going through your house and getting rid of open boxes of cereal, open boxes of pasta, like anything, you know, open bread. Not like right now, you've got 2 weeks, but the idea is like a day or two before Passover, your house is leaven-rine, you know, and you don't have to like lose the money that you spent on those things. If you don't want to, you can like put them in a little place. This is what Rabbi Stephen was saying, like, and just not see it. Stick it in a cabinet, tape it off. You're not going to touch it for a week. And then we have this little form you can fill out to say that you sell it to Will. Are you going to buy all our chametz this year? Oh, Carter, Rabbi Stevens. I mean, which makes it interesting because he lives with you. The halacha of your non-Jewish partner buying the chametz, because we have to talk about this. Anyway, there will be some person who is not obligated to adhere to the laws of Passover who buys our chametz from us collectively as a community. And we put our addresses down so that, you know, if they wanted a midnight snack, they could come grab the chametz, which they're not going to do, but it needs to be serious. And we sell it to them for $1. And for 1 week, they own all of our chametz. You know, in order for it to be a real sale. But you want that to symbolize something. You want that to mean something. So it doesn't just mean that you did it, although that does feel good to like see what it feels like. If you're, you know, always wanted to experiment with being gluten-free, okay, here's your week. But also to see what it feels like to take something out of it's a little bit like Jewish Lent, or Lent is a little bit like Passover. You know, it's right. But to take things out in order to have a more satisfying, fulfilling, intentional week of this holiday, which is all about individual and collective liberation. So may all of our preparations for Passover and Passover itself feel like that, be like that, and be in the service of a healed world. We say amen.